You were given an award the day the trains came through.
Yeah.
Just run past us again your history on the railway then.
History. Plenty of black smoke.
How did you start?
Me? I started in Wanganui. You start off cleaning engines, polishing them, cleaning them.
Yeah? And when did you get to be on the engine driving it?
Not till 1946 when I got my driver's ticket. That's when I came here, 1945, to work on the big engines and learn the modern stuff, which I hadn't done before.
Modern stuff being what? You're still
The
shoveling coal?
The equipment on the engines, they were totally different to the old original steam engines. So,
You're still shoveling coal though, weren't you?
yes, I was shoveling coal even after I got my driver's ticket there for a couple of years. You've got to wait until you get one foot on the bottom of the ladder, and then away you go.
But you drove the last train that went from Paekakariki to Wellington, didn't you?
On the last steamboat express from Wellington to Auckland.
Wellington to Auckland?
Well, I only went from here to Palmerston, but that was the first leg of the journey to Auckland.
How long did it take to go to Auckland in those days?
You left Wellington at 3 o'clock at night in the afternoon, and you got there at 7 o'clock next morning.
And how long did it take to get to Palmerston North?
It was an hour and a half from here. An hour and a half from here.
That's quick. I mean, from here off from Paekak.
Yeah.
That's about as long as it takes nowadays, isn't it? An hour and a half.
I don't know.
A lot more stops. What did you think of the flood?
The flood. Oh yes, a 5-minute wonder for put Paekak on the map.
I thought it was quite funny that they didn't seem to realise that both the road and rail were completely cut off from Wellington to Auckland.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Yeah.
a young man at the stadium said, "Oh, my mum will have to come and get me if there are no trains."
Yeah.
And little did they realise there was no question of his mum coming and getting him. The whole stadium full of people couldn't catch trains back north.
If my daughter had been 5 minutes later, she wouldn't have got home.
Wow.
That's how quick it all came down. It just came down in one big rush out of that gully.
Can you remember any other disasters like that happening in Paekakariki since you?
Oh, there was a minor flood along there by the engine shed. The other little creek came down and filled that bit up from the engine shed round the corner. 3 foot of water. That was the first one.
So were you here when the Americans had their camp over in Queen Elizabeth Park? Were you here then?
They had all gone. They were still building the camp at Mackay's when I came here in 1945. But the Americans had gone.
They were still building it? Did they expect them to come back again?
Well, and they weren't too sure. They went that fast up through the islands, faster than what they thought they were going to. So they went from here mostly over to Australia. Cairns was the next big place for the Americans over there. They were more handy to the Pacific, where they were wanted.
I remember you telling me about those soldiers who'd been training and got drowned. Well, how did they all react to that? Just run that story past us again?
That was before I came here. The ducks came in and hit the side of the sandbanks and tipped them all in fully equipped into the water, and that drowned them. People at Paekak were along the parade watching them come in and have a landing.
How come they couldn't rescue them? People were watching them landing and they watched them drowning.
Well, no, they couldn't get out to them. that sea out there, once it gets pretty rough, you don't get it. You don't get very far.
If you think about your time on the railway, what's the first thing that pops into your head? What's the first story that would pop into your head if you think about your times on the
Oh, here.
railway?
Well, the first one I nearly collected an old deer at Mackay's. There was about 20 cars parked from Mackay's down the road. There's cars the other side of Mackay's, and this old deer in a little Morris 8. She pulled out and passed the lot. And of course, when she got to Mackay's, she couldn't see the lights because they only had the lights on both sides. There was no barrier arm in those days. She went shot across under my nose.
Oh my goodness.
And if I'd hit her, I'd have killed the family on the other side because they'd got out of their car and standing in front of it to watch the train go over the crossing.
Oh.
But I never caught up with it till after I got past Lynch's. There's this little old deer. The only thing she had in front of her was a destination, wherever that was.
Which she nearly didn't make.
But all the antics of some of the drivers in those days, back in the 50s when they were starting to get cars, was quite humorous. How they ever survived, I don't know.
People used to go out for a Sunday drive just for the fun of it. It's unthinkable now.
Oh yeah, some of them were pretty wild drivers. But of course, you didn't have the cars on the road there in those days, but of course they moved fairly fast. Well, they didn't go as fast as what they could today.
If you had your life over again, would you do it all the same? If you had your life over again, would you do it all the same?
Yes, I think so. I think so. I've got no regrets. I joined at home there because a fellow from home joined. I thought, well, if he could stick it out for 12 months, I can. I wasn't worrying about jobs or anything at all like that. But I liked the job. I liked the free and easy life. You weren't tied down to regular hours. And got enough entertainment in between.
How many children did you have, Ken? How many children did you have?
4.
4. And did you always live there in Ames Street?
Yeah. Well, the first 12 months I was down in the compound at the engine shed. We had a compound. We used to have huts down there. We were all in huts. Bachelor gays.
And then, so you weren't married at that time when you were in the huts?
No.
And you got
I
married?
never got married till 47.
To when? 1947. And you had the 4 children. Now how many grandchildren have you got?
Well, I came here at 45. I got my ticket in 46 and got engaged and got married in 47.
And then you had your 4 children. And you've still got Margaret living with you.
Yeah.
And then there was another daughter that was...
The eldest daughter's in Australia.
Right.
She lived in Australia, Shepparton.
And one died in a car accident, didn't she?
Yes.
Chris's mother. Was it Chris?
No, Chris's mother was killed in a plane crash in Lima, Peru,
Really?
Peru, South America.
Really?
She was going up, a group of 4, going up to see the Nazca planes. And the only way to really see the Nazca planes was by air.
Oh, the Nazca lines on the desert, right.
Yeah.
And did that plane crash? Her plane crashed?
Little Cessna. There's a couple of Canadians, an American, and Joan.
And she just had one son, Chris, did he?
Yeah.
Did she? Yeah. And you
Yeah.
reared him, didn't you? Or did you rear him or did Margaret rear him? Did you rear Chris or did Margaret rear Chris after that?
No, Mum and I were his guardians.
Right. He had a wonderful childhood, actually. He's
They
grown up
wouldn't let
into a
us
marvellous...
adopt him. They said we were too old. And Margaret was single and they wouldn't let her adopt him. So we were his guardians, and if anything happened to us, we appointed Margaret to carry on as a guardian.
And he grew up into a fine young man. He's now in Australia. What's he doing in
Yes.
Australia now? What's he doing in Australia now?
He's a mining expert.
Yeah, did he do an engineering degree? Engineering?
No, mining.
Oh, right. He did a degree though, didn't he?
Geology, on the geology side of it.
Right. Right.
I'd like to hear some more about the trains. You told me a story once about how you used to put a plank down by the side of the train, or something like that.
No?
When we were talking on the side of the road with Adrian, you told us a story about how you stop and it'd be muddy on the side of the track, and you put a plank down, something like that.
I'm sorry, I can't quite...
The plank.
A plank to get off the train.
Yeah.
You'd get a plank, and they'd hop off the train on a plank rather than have a platform.
Oh. Oh, yes, you could, as long as the train wasn't going too fast. Skid along a bit.
What would you say was a highlight of your life at Paekakariki? Why did you never want to leave?
Well, I got married here, and that was it. Once you get married, your wife tells you what you're going to do.
And how did you meet your wife? How did you meet your wife?
Well, her father died, and she came back here to look after her mother. She worked in the refreshment rooms. The good old railway cups of tea, pie and putt,
Oh, yes.
rock buns, ham sandwiches and pies.
Yes, and those railway cups. They're very valuable now.
Hey?
They're very valuable now. You could build a house with them. They were so thick. But now they fetch a heap at the auctions, the old railway
We've got
cups.
one at home,
Yeah.
a souvenir.
Oh, good. Now, just going back to your family, you've got a daughter in Australia, you've got Margaret, the other one, and who was the fourth one?
Was Joan, that was the youngest one. That was the one that was killed in South America.
What's the third one then?
She was a nurse and getting home and had an aneurysm and crashed a car.
Oh, right. Oh, dear, dear. So you've got two left. And then of Chris, is he married yet?
Chris married, yeah, a bit of luck. He'll be a daddy next year.
Oh, good.
After all this time.
Good. You had was it him staying with you recently? You had one of them staying with you recently, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was
yeah.
it Chris?
That was Chris and Jody. They were over last year.
Right. And now you've got a project on the beach. You have been one of the stalwarts looking after the beach.
Oh,
You've picked up all the plastic for years and years and years, haven't you?
Oh, I wouldn't say I picked up the plastics.
Everything. You've cleared the
I
beach.
kept it tidy.
I know what we're going to do when you stop doing it, because when I walk on the
stopped
beach...
doing it.
You have you? Is that why I see the stuff lying on the beach? I'm thinking, oh, Ken hasn't been
I
down
haven't
yet.
been down the beach for a long time.
Oh, right. And then you made rocks. Tell us how you made your rocks.
What with the old plastic bottles?
Yes. I think
We've
that's...
given that away too.
I found one of them. I found one of them along the beach one day. How did it got washed along? So you've just made a whole lot of land by filling milk bottles with sand. How long would it take to fill a milk bottle?
Oh, we used to sit down there in the summertime. Nice quiet job to do in the summertime.
And they made very, very good rocks, so you were able to build up a...
Well, helped
nice-
fill a big hole in.
We should all be doing it. It'd be very therapeutic for us all. And you've had the most amazing vegetable garden that I've ever seen.
Well, I haven't done much in the garden for 12 months.
Have you got your potatoes in
My
for
sight's
Christmas?
gone.
Oh, really?
It's gone. I can't see anything fine now.
Oh dear. Is this macular degeneration you've got?
Yeah.
Need heaps of leafy green vegetables for that.
I can't do anything about it. So.
Oh well.
No, I miss reading and that sort of thing. I haven't read a paper or a book for over 5 years.
Oh, we should send school children in to read to you. A different one.
I can't even define those pictures. Like I can see the pictures there, but I can't see the fine detail in them. I've got peripheral vision, but not straight ahead. Usually the other way around, you can see straight ahead, but got nothing on each side. My father was like that. He could see straight ahead, but he couldn't see this on either side.
Now, what was that other story I got you to tell me about once? Can't remember.
The picnics? They're picnics?
Picnics? Events on the beach? Any great events that you remember? Ever had one of those paragliders land near you? What do you think of the paragliders that come down on the beach?
Yeah.
We don't seem to get them down our end, though,
That
do
was
we?
the first one around here, we saw here. Landed down the beach in front of the brick house over the creek.
Right. Right. Now,
We heard all this flapping and noise, and we wondered what the heck it was. And when we looked out, we were just in time to see the glider land on the beach. He'd taken off from up the hill.
we've never had any accidents, have we? With the paragliders, we've never seen any accidents with
No,
them. They've always been okay.
Well, one fellow got caught down the beach there. He ended up in the water, and tangled up in his harness. I think Margie got him out of it.
Really?
They just happened to be down on the beach. And, if they hadn't been there, he'd have been drowned. Could he land upside down in the water?
Oh, wow.
Then you got the paragliders. They were up and down like yo-yos. Once they ride the currents there.
Do you think that the beach has changed a lot in these 50 years? Now, is it 60 years that you've been there? What changes have you seen on the beach? Have you seen more erosion?
Oh, and the biggest lot of erosion was the early 50s. There was two big storms and took 20 feet off all the way down the beach.
20 feet. Have you seen what's happening at Fisherman's Table at the moment? Right by the motorway, there are 6
This side of
Fahuta cows
Yeah.
hanging off the cliff. Have you seen that?
And the road board doing nothing about it.
What do you think should happen to save that bit of cliff?
That's up to the roads board. If they don't save that, they'll lose their road.
Yeah. They should do something right now, shouldn't they? So it was in the 1950s. Was that when the railway houses were up on the park at the top
Yeah.
end? And that big storm took off 20 feet right the way down the beach. And so they moved the railway houses and turned it into a park.
Well, there was one house there, if you ran out the front door and couldn't stop it, it'd end up on the beach.
Up there? Wow.
That's when they decided it was time to move them all. And the first one out of here went to Aokuni for a weekend ski lodge.
Oh, they shipped them out.
Was there still a tea rooms up on the hill when you arrived here? Were the tea rooms still up on the hill when you arrived here?
The
Or had they
building
already
was
gone?
there. The tea rooms had closed down before the war, but the road was open in 39. I think it was a bit earlier than that they opened it. But the old tea rooms had closed, and the Navy they had a Navy lookout up there, and they were billeted in the old tea rooms.
What a good idea.
And if you wanted to go for a Sunday walk now in the late 30s, you'd walk up the hill and have a cup of tea up the top and then walk home again.
What a brilliant idea. What a shame they closed
Yeah, a
down.
lot of people used to do that. Walk up there.
That's a brilliant idea, actually.
Mrs. Dorozak used to have the tea rooms.
Did you, with your friends, what kinds of things did you do socially with your friends on the railways? Did you have parties or?
Well, they used to have dances down in the War Memorial Hall. It was a surf club in those days when we came here. It was the surf club, and they used to have Saturday night dances. The old railway football club, we ran dances there one year. People used to come up from down to catch the hut. The last train back to Wellington was 12:30 out of here at night, Saturday or Sunday morning. And I was surprising the people that used to come up from Pukerua Bay and Plimmerton for the dance. We had our own orchestra.
Wow.
Why did the dances close down? It's such a shame. Lots of people met each other
Well,
at dances, didn't they?
They gave it up when they couldn't play all the time. Because if you had to work Saturday night, that was the finish. You didn't have a dance that night because the orchestra was working.
What sort of an orchestra? Like real violins, cellos, the whole works, that sort of orchestra?
Of course, once television came in, that was the finish of table tennis, badminton and dancing. Everybody stayed home.
So they had badminton in the hall as well?
Yeah, there was one court down there. There used to be one court in here.
Oh.
You just had the bare room. You can see the old marks there, those white marks.
Oh.
Well, I think we'll finish in a minute, but just if you've got one more story from or have you got any other trips that you remember in particular on the trains?
Well, the only other one I nearly collected a car at Tihora. I was trying going around, hung on the whistle, and as it turned round to come across, what's going on? He was getting a real ear bashing, and he was blind and deaf to anything else, bar his wife, and he'd even switched off from her. And how he got across that crossing, I don't know.
He was tearing in front of you. He chose to, do you think he chose to just race across? He chose to race across even though he saw you coming.
He never even slowed up, he just... And as they turned to come round, I could see his wife going on. And he was blind and deaf to anything else bar that. If we'd hit him, we'd have taken him halfway to Otaki.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Thank you.
That was a family in that one. It was mum, dad and 2 kids.
Wow. They'd have all been wiped out, wouldn't they? They'd have all been wiped out completely, wouldn't they? What are people thinking
But I did
of?
collect a car at Levin one night with a diesel. With 3 Maoris in the front seat, and the girl sitting in the middle was doing the steering, and the fellow should have been driving the car. He was just sitting back. And they just come along and pushed him up the track.
Were they all right? Did they
Wrapped the car
survive?
around the front of the diesel and broke all the air pipes.
Did they survive?
Eh?
Did they survive?
The fellow on the left-hand side got hit by the engine, broke his knee. The car doubled up. He got caught between the seat and the dashboard and it broke his knee.
Is that all that happened to them?
Eh?
And then they're just travelling along with the car attached to the
They
train?
were only doing about 5 miles an hour.
You were?
No, they were. We were only doing about 20. It was enough to pick him up.
And
But
so,
the girl in the middle was steering the car.
oh, weird. So what? So the car got stuck on the train, though.
It was wrapped around the front of the diesel. We just pushed it along. And the fellow behind the wheel, just as well he hung on to it because his door flew open. If it hadn't been hanging on to the wheel, we'd have mangled him. And I was very concerned whether there was anybody in the back seat or not because that door on the driver's side flew open. Could anybody been in the back seat, they'd have been thrown out and we'd have pushed the car over them.
Oh, wow. So what happens after that when that sort of thing has happened? You stop the train?
Well, the
All
train
you-
just stopped. That's with the diesel. With the diesel, once you break the air pipes, you lose all the traction. The traction's gone. Everything's cut out. It's not like a steam engine. You could pull yourself to a standstill. But a diesel, you just go like that, but boom, boom. And your train will just run in and smacking behind you. Sometimes it'll jump the track. But we were fortunate that night it didn't.
Did you have a load of passengers on board in the all?
No, it was a goods train.
Oh, right.
A goods train that night.
Were the trains always full of people? Were there lots of people taking the train in those days?
Yeah, the old passenger trains used to be full. The Aucklands, the Bay of Plenty, New Plymouth, they all used to be full.
And the sleepers, that was fun on the sleeper trains.
Yeah, and that was the limited, that was the late one. That was always fairly full too. Well, if you want to go to Auckland, that's the only way you're going to go, unless you want to spend 2 days driving.
Oh yeah, the roads weren't that good, were they?
You go over the hill road from here to Paekanui, and that's what the road was like from Wellington to Auckland. That's a sample of what the old main road was. You either stop the night at Tai Happy, or if you had a good car, you might get through the Rotorua or Taupo. But it was always a 2-day trip to Auckland. You waiting for me?
Yep, we'll call it a day. Thank you so much. That was absolutely marvellous. You're looking great, I must say.
It is.
I've just taken
You
my wife.
poor thing.
I've just taken her up to
Hill Road.
Just taking her
no.
on the, I was just showing all the on the back pathways to get to the farm.
Farm,
Of course, 'cause you go
yes.
up the back of the farm.
Oh, well, this is kids. I mean, we used to cut that, going up that fence line was a regular occurrence in the weekends.
I'm trying to explain to Carla those.
Okay.